Slane Castle is located in the village of Slane in the Boyne Valley in County Meath, Ireland. Overlooking the banks of the River Boyne, the castle's sloping lawns form a natural amphitheatre, which has hosted some of the biggest rock concerts the world has ever seen. Attended by over 1.5 million music fans since 1981, Slane Castle has hosted some of the biggest names in rock and roll, including the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Queen, David Bowie, Neil Young, U2 and Metallica. Welcome back to Wall Again, where passion meets music. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It just dawned on us there the other day that not too far from where we're both from is one of the biggest rock venues in Europe that has hosted the cream of the crop in rock and metal music. And we've never really talked about it on any of our chats.
Yeah, definitely. It was something that just kind of came to me this morning, and I was saying, Jesus, we'll have to reach out to Rob and see if he's up for a chat. And it is the most iconic venue in Europe. Everyone wants to play there, even as recent as Metallica and stuff like that. They wanted to check it off the list. That's what it means to these guys. So it's great that we're going to go through all the years. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think there's been like 25, 26 concerts or something at the venue at Slane Castle. So there's plenty to get our teeth into, but sure, we might start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
1981, the concert was headlined by, of course, Thin Lizzy, where it all started with Lord Henry Mount Charles. He was 30 in 1981, and he was the heir to the throne, and he had a dream. He believed that Slane Castle could become one of the biggest and most important music venues in the world, and he set about on his life's ambition to make a global venue and attract the biggest rock stars from around the world to play in the back garden. It's a fascinating story and a fascinating history behind it as well, you know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful castle as well. I don't know if the people on YouTube can see on my little poster here. You can see it here, but it's absolutely it's sitting in a lovely part of Ireland, isn't it, Rob? Right on the Boyne, like it's a beautiful venue.
We go back to 1981. So obviously neither of us were born when the first concert was hosted in 1981, Gav. It was a huge deal at the time. And I just read out a little bit from Hot Press. So this was the Hot Press editor, Niall Stokes. This is what he said about the concert in 1981. I remember the feeling when the gig was announced that something special might just be happening in Slane. It was an amazing venue with a natural amphitheatre-like feel. The fact that it was on the Slane River, with Slane Castle itself looming above, added enormously to the atmosphere. From an Irish perspective, Thin Lizzy were a huge band, and Phil Lynott in so many ways was the ultimate rock star. So the prospect of seeing them with Slane Castle as a backdrop was a really tantalising one. While Thin Lizzy were spared a lot of the hostility and unpleasantness which was dumped on most hard rock bands at the time, and Philo had successfully befriended the guys from the Sex Pistols, the Boomtown Rats and other leading punk and new wave bands, he decided that Thin Lizzy should go for a more hard rock feel. And at least partially as a result, Chinatown, which they released in October 1980, was one of Thin Lizzy's greatest records. But the shift in a heavier direction was reflected in the first Slane bill, with outfits like Mama's Boys, Sweet Savage and Rose Tattoo all lining up. Mama's Boys were scheduled to be the opening act in 1981, though whether they actually played is a different subject.
I happened to be talking to Pat McManus there not too long ago on our podcast there, and he was on about, they actually had an unofficial kind of a Slane, an opening, I think it was in 1980. And he was telling me that it was on like the back of a lorry, on a kind of a curtain side of a lorry. And they pulled it in, and I'm not sure if Phil was there. He did mention Phil, but he did tell me, he says, oh, I played at the first ever one, the unofficial one, as well as the 81, I think. Something along them lines. I have to go back and listen to the interview I did with Pat. But
yeah,
he did say that he definitely said, I played the first ever Slane, unofficial Slane.
Very good. So apparently Sweet Savage actually opened the day. They were a new wave of British heavy metal band from Belfast, and their most well-known song was a song called Killing Time, which was actually covered by Metallica. They've played that live in Marley Park, and they brought out the singer from Sweet Savage. And then the guitar player from Sweet Savage, his name was Vivian Campbell. After playing Slane, he'd go to join Ronnie James Dio. The next band then they're on were The Bureau and then Rose Tattoo from Australia, and they sound very like AC/DC, but they're just not as good. Apparently then Phil arrived in a helicopter, and the helicopter was called Rockalypse Now. And the impact was like a god from the planet rock landing to us among mere mortals. And then a wild rush headed over to see Phil emerge. No contest. So all the rock stars were assembling, but when Phil arrived, everybody just rushed to see Phil. He was the star attraction. So then next is Hazel O'Connor. and then U2 took to the stage. There was a lot of buzz around U2 at the time. They were sort of seen as the up and coming band, where Thin Lizzy were maybe seen as the established legends, but maybe a little bit on the wane. The gig caught the Irish superstars to be in a curious moment. Their debut album Boy had more or less run its course, and they were in the middle of recording the follow-up October. So doing a big Irish festival wasn't a complete novelty for the band. They had played support to the Police in a major festival-style gig in Leixlip just over a year previously in July of 1980. As it turned out, Slane was a good day for the band rather than a great one. It was very ambitious to introduce the uilleann pipes in a huge open-air setting where the sound tended to drift off into the ether. Then we move on to Thin Lizzy as the headliner. So as anyone who's ever listened to the legendary double album Live and Dangerous will know, Thin Lizzy were really a brilliant live band. This might not have been their greatest ever set, but they still had a bunch of real humdingers. So I believe you have the set list there in front of you, Gav, do you?
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah,
you want to run through it maybe?
yeah. We can do. I'm just trying to close my eyes and imagine what it was like. But can you imagine Tin Lizzy coming on, seeing a helicopter coming in over the Boyne, landing in behind the castle, U2 do the set, Philo comes out and are you ready? Oh, come on,
Brilliant, brilliant.
come on. Like it's the perfect track to open a fucking concert with. Like, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like if that doesn't get you pumped up. So then Genocide number two. Number three, then Waiting for an Alibi. Great tune as well. Like then into Jailbreak. Intensity's up there. Emerald, probably one of my favorite Tin Lizzy songs. I think it's brilliant. Then there was a Dave Edmunds cover, Trouble Boys. Not sure what that is, to be honest.
me
Not
either.
sure.
Not familiar with that.
No, seven then, Don't Believe a Word. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Another cover then by Percy Mayfield, Memory Pain. Not
Okay,
not sure.
not familiar with that.
No, Got to Give It Up. Another classic. Brilliant.
Brilliant, brilliant.
10 then Chinatown.
Title
Yeah,
track from the latest album, yeah.
yeah, brilliant. 11 then Hollywood.
Hollywood. I think that's on Renegades.
I think it is. Yeah, they might
Yeah,
be testing that one then. Was it? Yeah, it wouldn't have been
they
it.
could have been. It was the
Yeah.
upcoming album. Maybe it was
Yeah. What I say then. 12 then The Boys Are Back in Town. And
brilliant.
Suicide then to finish it. I'm surprised they finished with that one.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, you'd think you
Um,
finish with Even the Boys Are Back in Town.
people had said it was a short set they did, like 13 songs. So I don't know, was it maybe an hour and 10, an hour and 15 minutes? An amazing event by all accounts, and the start of something very, very special at Slane Castle.
I'd love to hear some feedback. If anybody was at the show, it'd be cool to hear some feedback. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. As we say, it's before our time. And as we go through these gigs, we're going to get up to our time, Gav, when we were 15, 16, 17, starting going to Slane concerts. And, we can give a bit of perspective of actually being there. But for the first few years, we'll have to rely on other people's accounts. So that was great fun. Really enjoyed that, Gav.
Yeah, 100%. Deadly.
So the next one is the Rolling Stones, 1982.
Yeah, there's some brilliant ones coming up. This is going to be fun. Yeah.
Make sure you let us know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of this video and if you will enjoy going through all these Slane concert reviews, because we're certainly looking forward to it. And as Gav said, if you were at the gig, please, please let us know. We would love to hear first-hand accounts of the actual gig and the day and how things were back in the day in 1981. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye for now.